Next, I wanted to welcome up Matt Holman to the stage. Come on up, Matt. So Matt here, he's a good friend of mine, and I am super pumped to introduce Matt. This is his first time. This really is his baby, his event that he's been organizing. I'm so excited to welcome Matt as an official part of the Silicon Slopes Marketing Chapter Leadership Group. So he and I will be the ones throwing these shindigs together. If you don't know Matt, I know a lot of you do, but if you haven't met Matt, he's one of the type of guys that literally will give you the shirt off of his back. The kind of person who do anything and everything he can to try and help and serve people, even when it literally has no benefit to himself. So a little bit about his background. He's currently the co-founder and head of growth at QPilot. You've been doing that. It's kind of your own thing. You've been doing that for what, like a year? Two and a half years. He's also the operations co-chair at Subscription Trade Association, or SUBTA. He's the community advisory board member at RiseKit and founder of Commerce Catalyst, which was he really was the person building up the Share House community, if you were part of that, and which is now kind of rebranded over to Commerce Catalyst, or Catalyst as I like to call it for short. But anyway, I am really, really grateful to be able to work with Matt. He brings so much to the Utah community, to the Silicon Slopes community, not just marketing, but really just kind of the business world in general. He is a connector of people and just makes people feel so welcome and like everybody belongs. So I'm grateful to be able to work with Matt. Please give him a round of applause, and then I'm going to hand it over to him.
Thank you, Pete. And I want to say you got all those names right, man. So I'm really excited for this. As Pete mentioned, coming together to work on this, it's actually very humbling. It was about maybe 3.5, 4 years ago where I came to one of my very first networking events in this very room. So it's just great to kind of come full circle here. So I'm excited for all this that we can kind of dive into. So let's bring up our panel. We can start with Kate, Trevor, Patrick, come on up. And we've got 2 microphones you can share, and yeah, let's just start with a little bit of round of introductions, and maybe taking this vest off. We were all supposed to wear salmon color, but
I got the memo.
Yeah, it's okay.
It would
have been a little too monochromatic maybe if that had happened, but yeah. Trevor, do you mind kicking off just telling everybody a little bit about what you do? I mean, you're doing so many things. I don't want to miss anything, but
I would love to. Thank you everybody for being here. So my name's Trevor Crump. I am the co-founder of a post-purchase survey software app called Bestie. We work primarily with direct consumer and e-commerce businesses. I also am the co-founder of a jewelry company called Lore Jewelry by Cara Loren, with a high-profile influencer here in Salt Lake City. And I also own a marketing agency called Bestie Media.
Yeah.
That's me.
And he's also a fantastic marketing influencer in his own right. So that's why I'm here, to make sure you get the right kind of props. So
yeah. Thank you.
Trevor's on this panel because he sees it from so many different angles: creating the content, growing his own businesses, working with brands that need content. That's one of the reasons why I invited him to come out here. Patrick, how about you, man?
Hey, I'm just a wannabe TikTok influencer and a single dad. What's up? No, I've been in e-commerce and SEO for about a decade. I was at SEO.com for a number of years, and then have worked for a variety of different agencies. I started my own consulting business, just Patrick Williams Media, several years ago, and I've been over at Lendio for a while, helping on their franchise team on their e-commerce side. So, yeah, I've done a lot of stuff, run a lot of campaigns. So, yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me, dude.
Absolutely. Kate, please tell everybody a little bit more about what you do.
I'm Kate. I am the owner of an influencer marketing agency, a boutique influencer marketing agency. We actually work on both sides. So on the talent management side, we work with influencers, managing their brand partnerships, networking for them, reaching out to brands. And then we also work on the brand side. My background before this was on the brand side. I worked for several local brands running their influencer marketing and social media programs. And now I am freelance with my agency. So we have a few brands that we have done consulting for, and then we've done all their strategy, run all their influencer marketing strategy. So yeah, I've kind of got a unique perspective from working with both sides.
Awesome. Great. So the format today is we're going to have a discussion here. We're going to leave a little bit of time for some Q&A, but what we're going to try that's a little bit risky, if you're all willing to take a little bit of a risk with me, is we're going to break out into some breakout sessions right here with each of these people. And so I'll let you know what topics they're going to be doing. But the idea is, for those of you who have never been to an event that I run, I'm really all about hands-on stuff. I've seen so many events where I could have watched a YouTube video or read a post. And so for me, it's really, I want to get into the nitty-gritty. So if there's questions about software or how to do this or that, like really specific stuff, that's what we're trying to get into today, because everybody knows that you should be on social. What does that actually mean? What does success actually look like? So let's start with that. I'd like to hear from each of you some perspective on how brands are succeeding with social media today. Pretty broad, and go ahead and take a stab at that. What are you seeing working for brands?
I can start, if that's okay. Biggest thing that I am seeing with brands right now on social media. So if you take the progression of social media from like the heyday, like 2016, 2017, where there was no real algorithm that was like potentially hurting what you were doing, and pretty much anybody who followed you would see your stuff, and growth was very easy. Back then it was all about showing pretty pictures and showing aspirational type of content. The brands that are succeeding the best right now on platforms like TikTok are brands that, and people, right? So brands and influencers are people who document their journey and show the entire audience what they're doing, right? People, we can go and see pretty pictures anywhere, but to actually get the inner workings and see the good, the bad, and the ugly, that's what really, really resonates with the end user to trust what they're saying, because they're willing to show the F-ups as well as the, hey, this is where we succeeded. So that's my big thing is just document.
Yeah, I think too, on another aspect, I've been kind of like thinking about the different, like, what are the different topics that brands are speaking about? And I think too, like kind of like what you were saying, I think a lot of brands have in the past think, oh, I just need to stay in my lane. I just need to only be talking about my brand and our niche. But I think there are so many opportunities now for brands to be, showing the behind the scenes, or like focusing more on like how can we be relatable to people, because that is a lot of the content that you'll see going viral on TikTok and in Reels on Instagram is really relatable content, or content that is just the real life, just like showing, okay, behind the scenes, like this is what we're doing today. Or if you are an influencer, showing the nitty gritty, like just focusing on something that's maybe like the real life side of things, not the pretty side. Obviously there's room for content creators, and to create beautiful content, there's room for that. But I think TikTok really gives a great platform for people to show, like, I can show the pretty stuff, but I can also be relatable and show the real life too. So, yeah.
So who would have thought that being vulnerable on social media means you can be successful? Like, is that what I'm hearing? Like,
Yes.
I need to change up my whole personality. Okay, Patrick.
Yeah, how many of you, I'm going to take a stab at this a little bit differently, get some audience interaction. How many of you are social media managers for your organization right now? A few hands here. How many channels are you currently managing? 5, 3, 10. How many realistically should you manage? 2, maybe 1. The there's a big misconception about organizations, and I'm talking specifically to maybe B2B and tech companies. They're overworking you guys. There is so much content that you should be churning out for each channel specifically. I mean, you can cross-pollinate if you'd like. You know, I've had success with TikToks on Shorts right now. But realistically, you should have a strategy for every single channel. Snapchat, Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts isn't going anywhere. So yeah, that's how I've seen it change. This isn't OG Instagram anymore, where you could just post and get a ton of views. TikTok is kind of, organically, I think, has the fastest way to grow quickly if you're posting consistently. But yeah, that's kind of how I see it changed.
So, a question for you, Patrick, and Trevor brought this up, this idea of finding your brand voice, right? Like making it personalized to you either as a person or a brand or a company. Like, how do you find that? Because we can't all be just like sassy, right? Or we can't all just be sarcastic. We can't all just be one thing, right? So how do you find
pants?
Yeah.
It's hard, I guess. I mean, if you're working for a company or a brand, you know, I've see companies that their CEO is kind of the face of the brand, or their social media manager is the face of the brand. Sometimes those things don't jive. So from an influencer perspective, at least for me, on my personal brand, like, what you see is what you get. Like, I'm all out there. If you follow me on LinkedIn or TikTok, like, there's everything out there. For good and bad, ugly, whatever. I talk about mental health a lot. I talk about my sobriety a lot. I talk about, you know, being a single father and how challenging that's been. So I think people really resonate with people that are real on social media, because I think we get the pretty picture of some influencers. I've seen some really popular TikTok influencers that are showing everything, not just all the pretty, cute stuff. So, I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yeah, and then I think Trevor had something you wanted to add.
Yeah, to just like vibe off of that, realness, you know, the question is like, how do you find your voice? It really is just your voice. What ends up happening is realness drives polarization, right? Those are polarizing topics, right? To talk about sobriety, to talk about mental health. Not that people don't agree or disagree with those things, but those can be negative connotations towards you, right? But then you connect with an audience. For everybody that hates what you're talking about, there's somebody who loves it, right? AKA Donald Trump, right? One of the most polarizing people in the world. And half of you in here probably absolutely despise him, and the other half probably absolutely loves him. Nobody really sits in the middle with that dude, right? So being yourself can be very polarizing, and it attracts the people who share those same values, beliefs, vulnerabilities.
I kind of did want to jump off something else that you said too, as far as like whether you are in a brand and you're the social media manager or you are on the influencer side. For the brands, I think leveraging your community, leveraging your influencers to create content for you. And if you are an influencer, being willing to create content for brands, I think that is a huge way to maybe make your customers and make your audience your face, because those are the people that are using your products. If you're an influencer, that's how you are going to get brand deals, is by showing brands that you actually use their products. So on both sides, I think it's really important to leverage your community, show that you're part of a brand's community. And also a great way to take, if you are on the social media management for a manager for a brand, that's going to be a big way that you're going to take some of that weight on your shoulders to be constantly creating new content, is to leverage your community to create it for you.
So could you expand on that a little bit about this idea of like creating content, right? Because the idea about being successful on socials, you have to have content to put out there. So for those of us who don't have 10 or 20 or 100 influencers working for us, like, what are some strategies you've seen brands use, whether they're bootstrapped or funded, trying to, and this applies to personal brands as well, of getting content created and out there consistently? And this is for all of you, because I know you're all doing it.
one that kind of comes to mind, a brand I feel like from the very beginning when they were so small, I mean, did this really well, is they're a local brand, Tristan Ikeka? Is that who you say his name?
Don't try. Just
Don't
Tristan.
know.
Just Tristan.
I'm sure, Tristan, yes. I'm sure a lot of you know who he is because he created these amazing PR boxes. And you know when those influencers were opening their PR boxes on their feeds and creating the content for him, he was not paying them a dime. And he probably didn't even reach out to them asking them to do anything. And so that was a great way for him as a brand owner to really just like bootstrapping, just like saying, hey, I'm not asking anything from you, but I'm gonna give you this amazing moment that is so shareable that you're like, holy cow, you opened the box and there was like smoke coming out of it. It had their name like ingrained on the box and it was like insane. And there were influencers sharing it everywhere. And so it just kind of like caused him to blow up a little bit. And you don't see him doing that quite as much anymore because he has grown so much, but that was just, I think that's a great example of ways where just creating those moments for influencers and not asking them for a single thing. And I feel like that made them an instant fan of the brand.
Yeah, I love that. So I got two things from that. So the first thing is like, if you can have in your mind, what can I be doing to allow shareability, right? So that's what Tristan did really, really well. Another thing that I've seen brands do is go on podcasts. What's really cool about like anybody listen to Impulsive podcast, right? Logan Paul's podcast, or you've seen the clips, right? On TikTok. It's because they create such shareable stuff that everybody posts it. I don't know if I don't follow Impulsive, but I see his stuff everywhere because everyone else is sharing. So looking for shareable opportunities is a really good one. The other one on the flip side, if you're creating the content is, if anybody's on TikTok, one of my favorite brands right now that I'm super, super hot on is a brand called Midday Squares.
Oh, yeah.
All right?
They're fantastic.
Okay, Midday Squares. And so I did a little like piece about these guys and talked about it on my TikTok. If you go follow them, it looks like they literally have somebody like a film crew documenting everything that they're doing. And I mentioned that in a TikTok I created about them, and they reached back out to me and they're like, we do. Like we literally have cameras on our team 24/7. Whether that means
but they started out just posting about like everything they're doing. Their founders are like, okay, like I'm going to meet with the Copac today. I'm going to like raising money. Like that's literally been their whole journey. So it makes sense that that's what they're leaning into, right?
Yeah. So everybody, people are like, how do I get more content? It's like, just film yourself. In fact, if anybody's filming this right now, will you send it to me? Like DM it to me because I'm going to create a ton of content if you're filming me doing this, right? And I'll be able to put a voiceover of what I'm talking about right now. But that will be your best content. It seems uncomfortable to film yourself a lot, and it is wildly, depending on who you are, I guess. But yeah.
I think as influencers too, that's a lot of who the successful influencers are too. I think on TikTok, I'm sure if you are a female, even if you're not a female, if you are on TikTok, you have probably seen Emily Kaiser. She is an influencer that within the last 2 months, about 2 months ago, I think she had like 100,000 followers on TikTok, and she is almost to 2 million today. She's at 1.8 million when I looked at her yesterday. And I feel like she is a great example of someone who literally is just filming herself living her life. She films herself getting up in the morning. She films herself getting her son out of bed, getting him ready for the day. She films herself running errands. She does create funny and relatable content as well, but she literally is just filming her life. And that's why people love to watch her, because they are seeing that and they're relating to that. It's just crazy. And I think that's such great advice, is to just film, just start creating. Don't get too much in your head about it of like, what should I be posting, and just share. And that's the kind of content that people are wanting to see these days. So.
Yeah, there's really no strategy to this. I wish there was like a magic wand that we could wave and dupe the algorithm into showing your content, right? But you just gotta start. That's it. Like, just start filming. Everybody has an iPhone or an Android in here. You just start filming stuff. And don't delete your stuff. Like, even if it bombs, because it will a lot, mostly, all the time. So you've got to be consistent, and being vulnerable, it's hard. Like, it's really hard sharing your life with people. It's really hard being honest about how you feel. Like, saying you like Donald Trump, that could get you hit, like, anywhere. So, you know, but you got to be true to your brand. Again, if you're working with the brand, you've got to understand what influencers you can. That's a great point. Trying to find influencers that can be sort of the face of your brand, right? You can work with them. You can pay them, you know, hire 10 influencers, test some content, pick the best 5, pay them monthly, 6 months, see what happens. That's a strategy I'd use if you want to get influencers on your team.
Well, I think too, as somebody who works on the SaaS side of things, like, you know, being super vulnerable around subscriptions, like, does anybody think I can blow up a TikTok just doing funny stuff with subscriptions? Like, maybe, right? But the idea is, like, sometimes it's difficult to find what that voice is, especially if you're working at a larger organization. If you have a boss and your boss is a boss and that boss is the CEO, how are you supposed to march up a plan where it's like, okay, our TikTok strategy now is going to be X, Y, Z, right? Like, I think there's a nuance to being able to convince other people, especially within your organization, why this type of strategy could work. But I hope hearing from them gives you some ideas on that. And if there's anything any of you want to add to that, what I just said, please do.
I think I have one thing to add, just based off of that. I think on all sides, whether it's social media, whether you're looking for influencers, you really do need to think about, okay, who am I trying to reach? Who is my content for? And that will kind of help you know what type of content you need to create. I think based on kind of jumping off what we've already been saying, there are like 3 types of content that you're gonna see going viral, whether you're a brand, whether you're an influencer. And it's content that's relatable, like we've already been saying. It's content that is entertaining, whether it's funny, whether it's like insane, something just crazy, it's entertaining, or it's giving somebody value. And if you're like Trevor, he's someone who on social media is giving his audience a ton of value. He's giving his unique perspective, his own experiences on marketing, and sharing it with his audience. And those are the people that are watching him. They're the people who are in the marketing field, who are interested in marketing, and he's giving them value and teaching them something. If you are an influencer and you're really into cooking, like make cooking videos. If you are a brand that's like, you're building subscriptions.
No, you're absolutely right. So I do subscription content, and it's all about value. I'm trying to help people figure things out, unlock things, show people what other people are doing. So I love that you brought that up. Okay, questions about the content stuff, talking about filming. So, because the idea around Midday Squares is they didn't just hire a film crew from day one, right? They started doing stuff on their own, and then as they saw something was working, they doubled down. So I just want to ask the panel, like, should I be just doing everything on my phone to start with? Like, can we talk more about actual, like, techniques for approaching that? Even if you are funded, right? Does it have to be super polished? What are some ideas? And I'm going to bring up now, too, a slide with some of these tips that we've got, if it will. Or maybe I won't. I just had to click on that. Okay.
Yeah, I can jump into this. Okay, so I'll just tell you everything I use. Okay, I use my iPhone. I use my 14. No, I think I'm like 2. You know, okay. Don't call me out. You know, I'm not fully up to date. You know, so I use my iPhone. I use my sometimes like when I'm walking or when I'm traveling or whatever. I just use my iPhone cord as my mic. Like that is one of I've tested $300 Shure mics, and I've tested $30 Amazon mics, and that one is just as good as anything I have tested. Now I also do use a Shure mic because I have a podcast, and so I'll use that from time to time if I'm at my desk. I have a $20 tripod that I bought. That's on my desk, and then I have like a $50 one that I bought that can be a little bit more professional. And as a media, so I also own a media buying business, right? So that stuff works. That's easy for just content creation as content creators. As a company, a guy who owns a media buying agency, the creative that does the best is that content, right? So it's not the $10,000 shoots sometimes that are working. Now, there are these production companies here, like, you got the Chambers Media and the Creatively, and that stuff will work very, very well in certain situations. But for that shorter form content, video stuff like with your phone that doesn't look great quality is what is giving the best cost per clicks and link click-through rates that I'm recognizing as well.
I've meant to ask you about the holding the mic thing, because there's a couple guys, like 2 guys I love on TikTok, or 2 brothers who they do drafts for everything. I don't know if you've seen this. Yeah. And they're both doing that the whole time. They're just talking to that. And it seems like kind of cumbersome, but it also makes them super relatable. Those guys are hilarious. But anyway.
I think there was several years ago, if you guys remember Purple, they blew up YouTube and their brand. They hired Harmon Brothers to produce some really cool, funny videos for them. They spent a lot of money, but that paid off for them. That's OG social media. That's what I'm calling that. That type of stuff you could probably do now they probably paid $1 million for that, and they're probably still paying Harmon Brothers royalties for that right now. So I missed the boat on that. But you've got to just start creating content. Like, honestly, you just got to go through it. You boost your likelihood of engagement by cross-posting your TikTok content to YouTube Shorts. I've noticed that sometimes the algorithm, when you're in platform, like if you're in the platform creating it, like in TikTok or in Shorts, and you're not uploading it cross-pollinating, it doesn't do as well. I don't know if that's an exact science because of algorithm, but I think, in my mind, the algorithm will reward you. They want this, these apps are designed to keep you on the app. TikTok's so good because you're just, mundanely watching TV. You're not even watching TV anymore. You're just watching TV while you're scrolling TikTok. So there's a way to do really long form content. That 3-minute stuff still does well. You can share a lot about your life there, but yeah.
Are you just using an iPhone at home too?
Yeah, so I just use an iPhone. It's not a 14 either. I'm just jerking your chain. I've got a tripod. Bought it off an Instagram ad, and I got a ring light on Amazon, and then I have a Shure mic if I'm doing podcasting. And then if you're doing a podcast, which I highly suggest everybody start a podcast, whatever you want, film it so you have content to post and talk about and relate to. A lot of the really good podcasters are posting there's content on TikTok, splicing it up. So
yeah, and a lot of times if you are doing that, like that maybe a note that you mentioned in your podcast, that's going to be used as a TikTok sound, or it can be. So I think obviously when you're just small and you're just starting out, that's where it can get kind of overwhelming, is like, I don't have any of the equipment. But yes, I think it's just obviously, like everyone has been saying, if you have the budget for it, if you have the resources for it to hire somebody to create content for you, obviously go for it. There's no reason not to. But for a lot of brands, when like your budget is probably really limited or you're just starting out, just creating content, like everyone has been saying. I think it's all about getting the content out there. And if you're thinking twice, like second guessing yourself every second, then you're never going to post anything. And you're never going to get anywhere.
Getting it out there and learning quickly, right? Like what types of things start to resonate with your audience?
And I feel like everyone has been saying, you don't need to spend a lot of money. Like get a ring light, get a tripod. You'll get something maybe where you can mount your phone onto different, they have these, I have a magnetic one that sticks to magnetic, or silicone things that will suction onto things. Get a tripod for your car, film content in your car. You could spend less than $100 to get equipment, and start with what you have.
For sure. One thing I want to just kind of end with, at least my thoughts, is high quality. The term high quality from 2016 to 2020, 2021 meant the format was high quality. High quality in today's age, 2023, is the value. So remember that. It's the value. It's what you're going to bring. And value, like Kate said, can come in inspiration, it can come in education, and it can come in entertainment.
That's awesome. Okay, I want to segue to Q&A right here. Again, we are going to do some breakout sessions, so if you do have some specific questions, you will have other opportunity to talk to each of them individually. But for now, for the benefit of everybody here, let's do some questions. And social's really big, so we've barely scratched the surface here.
Pete, do you have a question?
How do I dress like you?
A
My
lot of
wife would
money.
love me.
Oh, I'm supposed to say Gucci.
Gucci.
We're so Gucci today.
So I'm gonna move this around for questions.
Yes, absolutely.
So my question is, with how like short people's attention span is, and they're just scrolling through really quickly, I start to wonder, like, are people seeing a lot of the content, but how much are they engaging? And is there some strategy to create engagement off of that short period that they're seeing your video?
Yeah, you got 5 seconds to catch somebody's attention, honestly. So captions are huge, like putting a caption on your video so when they see it, they can read, oh, what is this? The really good creators are doing that. Yeah, but honestly, you'll notice your views, and I'm not sure how long TikTok counts a view. Like, I think if it comes up, that's a view, right? So if they're engaging with your content, that's great. But yeah, you've got a really short period of time to catch somebody's attention. So better be good.
And I would have, when I was first starting out, I would get so concerned, like, oh, my audience has heard me say this before. Like last week I said this. That is not actually happening. Like, so I've now started, like, I repeat myself all the time, and yet nobody has said, wow, Matt, like, you keep recycling your old stuff. It's like, no, you have to do that in order to get it in front of more people.
So a couple things here, right? So attention span's super short, right? Like, I would probably argue that you've got like 3 seconds even, okay? So think of that. Also think that your audience has a 3rd grade education, okay? And then the other thing that you need to think, well, and to be honest, I think America has a like 5th grade reading level. Like, I think that is what the average reading level is. So think of it as 3rd grade, right? So be super simple. And then the other thing that you can do, or the other thing that you need to remember is, like, you might have a 60-second video that is so funny or so valuable, but if you don't spend 80% of your time on creating that piece of content on the first 3 seconds, then you're gonna lose. Like, it could be the best content in the world, but you're a sucky content creator if you can't get somebody to stop. Even though it's amazing, right? Right? I have so much content that I've created that I'm like, damn, this is so freaking good. Why aren't people watching it? And then I go back and I look at my first 3 seconds. I'm like, I blew it, right? So spend 80% of your time on the first 3 seconds. That is going to be the most important piece. The other thing, now Instagram doesn't do this, but TikTok does this. TikTok will allow you to look at your analytics, and it'll say, what is the watch time, right? When are people dropping off? This is what I've learned, and there's other people who are 10 times better at creating content than I am. But what I've recognized for me is that if I can get in that first 3 seconds at least 65% of my audience to stick around, then I'm winning. So that's kind of my barometer. Metric?
Metric's a good term.
I think, too, if you are a brand and you are creating content specifically for social media, which is what we're talking about, jumping off of what everybody else has said, like, you really want to make sure that your organic content is not looking like an ad. Because, I mean, think of yourself. Think about how you consume content. Think about how you are scrolling when you're on social media. The second you see an ad, you're scrolling right past it. I mean, obviously, sometimes an ad does a really good job of getting your attention, getting that you got to do the same thing in ads too. But if your content looks like you are a content creator, or you're just somebody who's just filming or whatever it may be, you're going to get somebody's attention a lot quicker, and they're going to stick around. You're not going to get that instant scroll if your content is not looking super salesy or like an ad. So.
Okay, more questions. That was great.
Hi, thanks for being here. I have a question. So with companies like Purple, where you can be really innovative, a lot of the tech companies, you can be kind of cheeky and fun. Do you have any thoughts around more high-level professional services where you need to kind of maintain a certain level but still want to be fun and engaging?
Do you really want to maintain a certain level, though? No, you probably do. Yeah, that's hard. Like, there's a lot of B2B tech companies that I've consulted for, and I've tried to get them outside the box to try some things differently. You just got to go for it. Like, as a social media manager, your job is to drive awareness and to drive leads, which at the end of the day drives revenue. Shareholders are happy. So you got to talk to your CEO or CMO, and what do you want here? Do you want an awareness play? Do you want people to know about the brand? Like with Purple, they're mattresses. Like, okay, like how are you gonna be funny with mattresses? They found a way. They just did everything that they could think of, all those wild ideas. Why couldn't you try it? Why couldn't you do, like I was at Lendio and I was like, hey, let's do some really funny videos about getting a mortgage from a baby. What? And it got like 1 million views on their YouTube channel. And all they had was just like boring like mortgage content. Like there's an audience for that type of stuff. But again, you just got to take some risks. You got to try some stuff.
Well, I would say too, it's like there is a difference between being like really rude or unruly and still being interesting. Like for me, I follow a criminal defense lawyer on TikTok because he just makes really interesting videos around like how you should talk to the police or not. Sometimes it's a little funny, but he is really engaging. Yeah, and then the other thing too is with TikTok, you're already getting trends. There's already people doing funny things like the recent one with the rowboat, right? Like, so you're not necessarily looking like you're an unprofessional brand by hopping on some of these trends. You can lean into some of that and still be funny.
I got a follow-up question with your question. Is it for like a software professional services company, or is it for your business as a servicer?
CPA and advising firm.
Okay, cool. So what I would do if you can't if it's not your company, and so you don't have the autonomy to necessarily showcase the type of personality that you would like, and it's going to be a challenge to convince the right people to get that go ahead. What I would go do is I would start searching. So TikTok has become a really good search engine, right? Go into TikTok and start searching topics around CPA, accounting, all that kind of stuff. And remember that, once again, these people who are watching, 3rd grade reading level, okay? So you could talk about some crazy tax stuff that would be very valuable that is just not gonna connect with the right people, okay? So dumb it down a little bit, figure out what everyone's searching, and then start creating around that, because then you just start creating around value. Like, that's a high search term. That's the content we're gonna start with. Figure out your format, whichever format works, right? Like Patrick said, you're gonna fail like crazy, but eventually one hits, and you double down on that format, and you double down on those pieces of content, and then guess what? 2 months later, you repurpose it and share that exact same piece again and again and again.
Yeah, and there are the most boring companies out there that are leveraging TikTok to just an awareness brand, right? There's a couple plastic surgeons that I follow. They're just dancing in their office. Like, that's it. Like, there's no, occasionally they might do some, medical stuff, but that's just to get the brand out there, right? And then if you want to be strategic like he's talking about, then you can start to do those more ad values. But I bet there's a business on TikTok that's boring as hell that's blowing it up.
Yeah, and I think based off what we said too, maybe humor isn't your thing. Maybe you're not going to be able to convince your superiors to get on board with doing crazy, wild, funny content. So if you need to go take it from a different angle, like if you want to take it from the value angle, like Trevor said, okay, think about what's relatable. What do people are like, I'm an adult and I don't know this information about taxes or accounting, and take that information and really, really dumb it down, and then use that as to give your audience value. Okay, these are 3 things you wish you knew about tax season. And I don't know, just taking it to the very, very basics, thinking about, okay, what was something I wish I would have known about this, and what is something that's super relatable that a lot of people probably don't know about this, because I mean that kind of content's going to get traction too.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, go ahead, bud.
I talk way too much. So one more thing you can do. So I had somebody on my podcast. If any of you Utah people, you've probably seen him. He's a good LinkedIn influencer. His name's Levi Lindsay. So Levi was on my podcast last week, and he brought up something that was so killer for me. So he used the term juxtaposition. Have you guys heard that, right? What that means, right? So you can take something that someone else is doing, but try to deliver it in a different way. That's the other way you can do it, right? So what he did, he was working for a company called Neighbor.com, right? And what he decided to do was he's like, listen, we wanted to talk about storage and space, but like, there's other people who are doing that kind of stuff. Like, how do we do it? And so what he did is they hired somebody to get them prosthetic makeup to look like an alien. And that's how he went out and interviewed people. So it's like he took something, okay, there's definitely people using prosthetic makeup on TikTok. And there are definitely people talking about storages and businesses and how to grow and how to save money and blah, 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 blah. Let's add them together, right? And there's that juxtaposition.
Yeah,
so that's another way to think.
They blew up with that. London Lazarson.
Yeah, London's great.
Yeah. He's doing something with Disney. Otherwise, he'd be here right now. I swear. Okay. Anybody else? Let's do a.
So say you're just starting a channel, just growing it, and you need to post frequently. How do you leverage so you have your organic posting? How do you leverage paid? How often are you mixing that in, and what's your advice there?
For e-commerce brands, I would use that 80-20 rule. Again, the UGC content, it looks so real now. There's some sponsored ads that I see on TikTok that I don't even know they're sponsored until I look at the bottom and it says sponsored, and I'll like it, and then I'll unlike it. I'm like, oh, I don't want to get that click. Stupid ad. But no, yeah, I don't know if there's a really healthy rule around whatever your budget is. Obviously, you need to couple the SEO with the organic, with the paid, right? I would lean into whatever channel is performing the best for you, and that's where I would spend the majority of my paid media.
So one thing that we do really well, that we're seeing, like the brands that are having the most success organically and in the paid realm, is what they'll do is they will push their content out, and you as a brand will understand organically what good views are, what good engagement is, right? For your business. Every business, it's different. So understand what your baseline is, and then when you start to get a piece of content that goes above your baseline, that's your next ad. So that's how you operate, right? And that's how what Kate said was make your organic content not look like it's an ad. Make your ads not look like ads. Make your ads look like native content. The best way to do that is to actually take a native piece of content and turn it into an ad. That is the ad strategy right now that's crushing it for a lot, especially in the D2C world.
And how far apart? Say you have post an organic post that blows up. How far do you wait to boost that and pay?
ASAP. Doesn't matter. I mean, the moment you understand that that's working, get it in there as soon as you can, and then you'll figure out as a brand when it starts to die out, right? Because ads. I remember back in 2016, when I would run ads, I could have an ad up for months and never touch it. Now the longevity of an ad dies a lot quicker, especially on a platform like TikTok.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just gonna say based off that too, if you are just starting out in any of the different channels in marketing, it's all gonna be about testing and finding the content that is going to perform well for you. And so, yeah, focusing on content that's already performing well, or testing different types of content and gathering data. And then that kind of can give you some more info on what you're going to capitalize on and what your strategy is going to be, because every business is going to be different on what your ad content looks like and what is going to perform. So,
real quick too, just give you some numbers around organic and paid. I didn't pay for a single ad on LinkedIn last year. I had my LinkedIn account banned a couple years ago. I had like 50,000 connections at that point. And I had to start from scratch. So I started last year, and I had 5 million impressions last year, organic impressions. And I did the math. It would have cost me $15,000 to get all those impressions on LinkedIn. So organically, like he was saying, figure out what's really performing really well for you organically, and then just lean into that content and start spending money.
Awesome. Okay, we are going to segue here real quickly. Are there people in the conference room in there?
There are.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Okay. So a couple things really want to wrap up. I just love that we've been talking about content related to this, and we've had an amazing sponsor story. I just want to mention them again for providing lunch, and thank you, because that's a lot of what they do in their wheelhouse. And a couple things too. In case you do not get an opportunity to talk or get your question answered with any of these three, they are all amazing, and they're all open and willing to talk to everybody here. So if you need an email or anything like that, just let me or Pete know. We'll connect you. Otherwise, you can connect them on social, right, as well.
Yeah, you can hire us.
Yeah, exactly. So these are going to be the breakout groups. So this is kind of how I've been envisioning it. So we're going to have Kate is going to come down here by the ping pong table. If anybody wants to go down there, and she's going to be talking about people who are looking for help with influencers. Either you are an influencer that wants to learn how to better work with a brand, because I feel like that there's going to be a great disconnect there, understanding what value the brand needs, or you're a brand looking to work for looking how to better work with influencers, right? So either side of that question, and who knows, maybe you're a brand and an influencer, you might meet somebody here today, right? So that'll be right over here. Right here, right in front, we're going to have Patrick, because you have slides, right?
Do.
Patrick is, I would call, in addition to being an OG marketer, is a personal brand, just amazing at personal brand of what you've done. So he's going to be talking about success on TikTok, about branding, your personal brand, how to find that fun voice, all right here. And then over here, over in the couch area, and I'm sorry if you had a comfy spot and you want to go over to the ping pong table, but we're going to have Trevor. And Trevor, again, his expertise area is in running an agency, in working with brands. So if you're a business trying to figure out how to do social better, like that idea of how a CPA firm could start creating content, what they would talk about, I would suggest you go meet up with Trevor right over there. And go.